we don't have any policy specifically on this. We have the immigration laws, but as we've seen with the last administration, if the government refuses to enforce those, they have no effect whatsoever. And there's anywhere from 125,000 to 300,000, depending upon whose estimates you're looking at, incidences of birth tourism each year. The implications of this are absolutely frightening if you look at it long term. During the Cold War, the Russians had a program called the Illegals Program, where they inserted agents of influence and spies into the United States with documents that made it appear that they were lawfully here. If those people had children, they became U.S. citizens, and regularly those children were trained, despite the fact that they allegedly had a claim to United States citizenship, they were trained to be against the interests of the United States. So this is something that is dangerous. We need a firm policy against it. And it is something that places the United States at a great deficit in terms of national security.
According to the Heritage Foundation, they have reported on a new birth tourism tactic which uses international commercial surrogacy to exploit America's misinterpretation of the 14th Amendment and our lax surrogacy laws. Intended parents who are foreign nationals use a surrogate in or transported to the United States, and the surrogate may be an American woman who then gestates a child for a fee, allowing foreign nationals to essentially rent a room or buy a baby. Mr. O'Brien, under the current wrongful interpretation of the 14th Amendment, this child would gain U.S. citizenship, wouldn't they?
Yes, they would, and because the Immigration and Nationality Act has become a muddle under the weight of misinterpretations about various effects of provisions of the Act, that places the United States in a position where people with no connection to the United States who simply want to be here because they either don't like the political or economic conditions in their home country can then use the citizenship of an adopted child or a surrogate child to try and access the United States and then eventually get lawful permanent residence and become citizens themselves.
To eliminate birthright citizenship would be to create a permanent underclass, a caste system, which was the very result the Reconstruction Congress intended to end.
I'm going to ask each one of you a question related to this scenario, because this is a real scenario. In Yuma, Arizona, they have one hospital for about 150,000 people. They have a small maternity unit, about 8 to 10 beds. Many times the beds, every one of them is occupied by a mom-to-be who has illegally crossed our border, usually through the Cocopa Reservation. I know right where they come, and they go in, and they have a baby, and then they both depart to go back south across the border. And I guess my question for each one of you is this. Under the original meaning, because I'm trying to establish, you've all made it clear, I want to make it clear. Under the original meaning of the 14th Amendment, Ms. Frost, is that child a citizen of the United States of America?
Yes, of course, because the Reconstruction Congress
and
wanted in simple and clear language.
Thank you, appreciate that. Oh, and now, Mr. Cooper?
No, Congressman, not under the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment.
Mr. McCarter?
I agree with Mr. Cooper, that's correct.
Mr. O'Brien?
No, because she's not lawfully present in the United States, the mother.
I understand more than anyone that we are a nation of immigrants, but there's a difference, stark difference, between giving citizenship to the children of slaves, the children of those subject to the Middle Passage, the children of sharecroppers, and the children of those who were once considered property, and giving citizenship to the children of people who crossed the border illegally, stay in taxpayer-funded luxury hotels, who receive free Xboxes, free cell phones, free flights around the country, and 3 square meals a day. There's a big difference. My great-great-grandfather was born on a plantation, Rosedown Plantation in Louisiana. He had to join the Union Color Guard to gain his freedom. By morphing the citizenship clause into something that it wasn't meant to be, it's demeaning to descendants of slaves like me. And not just me who served this country, but my father is a retired colonel. My sister went to West Point as a retired colonel. My brother went to West Point. We are talking about a direct descendant of a slave that earned the right to be in this country and passed that ilk down to his ancestry. People bled for it. People died for it. And it means something. The purpose of the 14th Amendment that President Trump's birthright citizenship executive order is that the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment was never meant to apply to children of illegal or legal aliens. Allowing birthright citizenship to stay in place dilutes the citizenship of not just Black Americans like me, but every single American citizen that had to earn it the right way. Let's say this in black and white. Either you're a U.S. citizen or you are not. Now, the left has spent decades cheapening what it means to be an American citizen. They've quite literally been chipping away at the basic value of American citizenship. They pretend to be altruistic, but we know the truth. Ozzy Osbourne's daughter said on The View that we have to let illegal immigrants in this country because who else will clean our toilets? We hear it all the time. Who will pick our crops? And even though that we know that American citizens are the majority of those people picking our crops, we know what you're insinuating. And all this must end now.
Ms. Frost, did the framers of the 14th Amendment intend to extend birthright citizenship to the children of slaves and other non-citizens?
Yes, the Reconstruction Congress could not have been clearer. They used clear language, and their discussions that followed made this clear. They said, of course, they wanted to overrule Dred Scott, which include giving citizenship to all enslaved Americans, including those who had arrived illegally because they'd been illegally imported after the laws prohibited it. They were the illegal aliens of the day. The Reconstruction Congress said, we want them to have citizenship. The second group explicitly discussed was the children of immigrants, in particular, the children of Chinese immigrants. That was the intention of the Reconstruction Congress, and they achieved that through clear language.
Check out Judge Sorokin, nominated to the district court in Massachusetts by President Obama, who says, the 14th Amendment says nothing of the birthright citizens' parents in efforts to import such considerations at the time of enactment and when the Supreme Court construed the text was rejected. No federal judge, to my knowledge, has upheld this executive order against legal attack. Tell me why you think there's such unanimity across the spectrum among the judges.
Well, first of all, the language is crystal clear of the 14th Amendment. There are thorny and complicated and broad and vague provisions of the Constitution, but the Citizenship Clause could not speak more clearly. That's what the court said in Wong Kim Ark. Its language is universal.
When she says just like the United States, even though there are no European countries, are they, when they have birthright citizenship, just like the United States? I think what you told me is not true.
No, to the best of my knowledge, at present, there is some kind of limitation on birthright citizenship in all the places that have it.
So I want to talk about the times that gave rise to the 14th Amendment. It was 1868. There was the aftermath of the 4-year divisive, destructive Civil War that killed roughly 750,000 soldiers, or 2% of the population. Resistance in the form of Reconstruction, a massive tsunami in a soon-to-be U.S. territory that killed 70 people, and in the aftermath of the 1868 Louisiana Constitution, which gave black men the right to vote and a public education, you had Louisiana, the Louisiana Massacre, where black people were murdered trying to vote. As people would say from my hood in L.A., the white folks went cray-cray. And in spite of all of that, white congressmen showed up in 1868 to debate the 14th Amendment because in the midst of the madness and violence of the time, it was that important. And it passed with birthright citizenship, those 3 clauses. And these tenets forever changed this country. The 14th Amendment is a pillar of American law in a good way, and it has been for 160 years. Everyone recognizes that it should not be touched, that it is sacrosanct, even Justice Scalia.
An example of, sort of the absurdity of all-out birthright citizenship. El Chapo's wife, Emma Coronel, traveled to California to give birth and then immediately returned to Mexico. Under Biden's policy, the children of a drug lord were then American citizens who had every right to American bank accounts, and indeed they obtained American bank accounts. Did El Chapo's children, did they own full allegiance to the United States?
They would not, no. Their children would have been at least partially allegiant to their parents' home country.
And so it is that, and I think in your testimony it's very clear that this idea of full allegiance is pivotal here.
It was the widely understood understanding of the jurisdiction clause at the time it was ratified, yes.